Hey everyone, so in this video we're going to talk about painting skin colors on Procreate. And even if you cannot paint faces at all, I think it's totally fine. Like this is the first painting that I made on Procreate. And yes, I know that is totally bad. But like these are the few paintings that I made later on using the concepts that I'm about to talk about in this video. So hopefully something in this video will connect and it will help you out in your journey. So if you have messed around on Pinterest, you must have seen one of these references before, which is color coded in a way, because like as you can see, the topmost part is yellow, the middle part is reddish, and the bottom part is a little bit bluish. You won't probably find many people agree to this, especially who are even into like semi-realistic stuff, because like it's great for beginners. It gives you an estimation of which color temperatures you want to be using on different parts of the face. But again, it's not something that is universal, and it's not something that is going to apply to every portrait that you're going to make. And like these are just an averaged out version of whatever people see. So it's like a huge pool of data, and the people who are making these references, they kind of average out whatever they're seeing the most in that pool of data. But again, it is not something that you can apply to every portrait. And that brings me to the first point, which I think is the most important point out of anything, especially if you're painting. Like you cannot just rule this out, and you cannot just like not think about this one. And in a way, like that's a problem that you need to solve inside your own head, and it's a mindset that really puts you in a box, and that is the fact that you're looking for a quote-unquote skin color. Trust me, that is limiting, because like if you try to find out a recipe that works for like many paintings, it's almost always going to be the case that it's not going to work for one of the paintings that you're going to make in the next 10 attempts. And it's not even the fact that you have to mix your own colors, because like in digital paintings you can just pick and choose and just use whatever color that you want to use. So yeah, my number one advice to paint faces would be just to stay away from patterns and rely on your own creative instinct and your own observational skills to find out the colors that you see in the reference, and then apply it to the painting that you're about to make. And if you have Procreate, just pick up a reference of your choice and just look around using the eyedropper tool and see the kind of colors that you find. You'd be very surprised to find out that there are shades of purple, yellows, and even greens in many people's faces. And if you just think about it theoretically, it's like purple is not a skin color, but like that's the main thing. Skin color is there's no such thing as a skin color. Any color that you could see in nature could be a skin color. And just a quick FYI, I don't really mean out of the tube colors, okay? Those things are like super saturated. In real world, super saturated colors do not exist unless you're seeing something like, I don't know, trees. The leaves of the trees, they're super saturated green. But like in faces and everything else that you see, it doesn't matter, because like the colors are there, the hues are present. It's just that they're super close to gray and the saturation is really dropped down. That's kind of also a tip, perhaps, but like stay away from like super saturated colors when you're painting faces. And there's going to be an exception if you want like a little bit of stylization, and I'll show that in a bit. But like yeah, stay away from like super saturated colors, as again you're not going to see that too often in nature. And again, if you see in this kind of a portrait, it's a really generic portrait, and you see oranges, reds, and yellows like you would see in real life when you see a person's face. But like when you see something like this where the subject is lit up by totally unusual lights, there's purples, you'd wonder like where are the reds or the oranges or the yellows. But like I hope that ties it up for you, because like colors are just colors. You don't just get better at like portrait painting by just painting portraits. Obviously you will get better, but it's like regardless of whatever you paint, you just have to make sure that you're training your eye to pick out the right color. And as long as you just pick out the right color, I think that 60 or 70% of your work is already done in like any painting that you're about to make. Like doesn't matter if it's like a landscape painting or doesn't matter if it's like a portrait. As long as you're picking the right colors, you're golden. And the second thing that I would like to talk about is something that ties in with the previous point, and that is just that you should learn about how colors behave. And by that I mean some things like you should learn about complementary colors and how colors cancel out each other, like neutral colors, and how they move towards gray when you mix complementary colors, or like how tertiary colors have a little bit of primaries in them. It's not that it's the most important thing, but again, art is really a form of science in many ways. Like there's many aspects of it where the more technical you get with the knowledge that you have, the more better your artworks are going to be. And also about color relationships and how colors behave around each other. Like some people are used to just like jumping around the portrait and just fixing up everything as they go, and they don't get too focused on the details, and that's really a good technique. But some people also work side to side, and I think like working from side to side is a really good thing too, as color relationships are something that is not easy to understand if you're just a beginner like me. And there's also a thing called simultaneous contrast, and it's basically where your brain tells you that a color is particularly darker or lighter based off of whatever color is put next to it. So if you were to look at this photo and I were to ask you which gray out of these two is darker, you would be, well, you can take your time, but like you would be surprised to know that the grays that I've put down on the canvas are actually of the same value. And it might again look like the gray on the second is a little bit darker, but if I were to just join these two, you would be finding out that they are of the same value, like I said before. And that is why painting side to side. You must have also noticed like sometimes people kind of tint their canvas and they use acrylic base before they're painting on oil. And even when people are painting on oil, they're not using a white palette. It's basically something a little bit too a little inclined towards the grayish side, because like that starking white that you see on that palette, it can really affect the judgments that you're about to make to like, okay, I'm gonna choose this color, because like that white really affects that perception. And that brings me to my third and final point, which is about values and the fact that values are more important than anything. And it's something that I learned while I was trying to paint in traditional oils, and it's kind of like an ironic statement, because like obviously hues are very important and you cannot just use any hue, but like if you were to choose like out of the two, like what would you choose? You should probably choose values, because like see, with Procreate you could just use any color that you want, but in like traditional oil painting you actually have to get a recipe and mix the colors that you need to use. And that's the thing, if you don't get your values in the right order, there's little to no chances of you like nailing the hue. And that kind of like hit a nerve or something. I'm like, that's so true, because like I've seen many stylistic artworks where people have the values correct in certain areas, but the saturation is so high and somehow it still looks good. As long as the values are in the right place, it doesn't matter. You could go really high with the saturation or even change the hue. Like let's say this example, like I made a painting of like Jim Halpert from The Office, and if you were to look at it from like this distance, it looks all right, but if you were to zoom in, there's a little bit of a hint of a red in different colors. As you can see, like if I were to choose this color really doesn't really belong in a face, but it's there and somehow it still makes sense. And the reason for that is the fact that the value is correct. So even if I were to like choose a different chroma, it would still make sense, like this, as you can see. And it's also difficult to judge the value of a color by just looking at it. It's a hidden trial method, so you try it, and then if you fail, then you make some adjustments, and then you see if the piece is fitting in the puzzle. And unless again you're working on the shadow side where the saturation can be high in like normal conditions, a person's face is going to have like colors which are of varying hues, but the saturation is not going to be high at all, and it's going to be closer to the grays. And that is also another reason why I think values are more important, as the more closer a color goes towards gray, the less the hue of it matters, if that makes sense. It's like they're going towards the same direction, and they're with each step you're kind of taking away the only property, which is the hue, from them. And the more you do it, the more similar they look. That's why it's really hard to differentiate what hues there are in a person's face, because like everything is so grayed out, and that just gives you such a hell of a job to identify, is that like a warm color or a cool? Well, you can still differentiate between warm and cool, but there's a lot there that just needs you to like sit down and solve it like it's a piece of puzzle. Anyways, I think this is it for the video. Hopefully something in this one helped you out, something connected, and yeah, I will see you next week.